The spark no one saw coming, no one in the galaxy thought much of humans. They were a young species. They had no special weapons, no advanced ships, and no old knowledge passed down by ancient civilizations. The Galactic Union allowed Earth to join only because of a vote to make things fair. That decision would soon haunt them. In a quiet lab orbiting Earth's second moon. A group of scientists worked on a strange energy. It wasn't nuclear. It wasn't gravitational. It was something else, something no one had a name for yet. They called it phase light. The lead scientist, a man named Tom, stared at the glowing blue orb inside the sealed chamber. For weeks, they had been running tests. Nothing reacted the same way twice. Sometimes the orb pulled metal objects toward it. Sometimes it made the air shimmer. Other times, it hummed like it was alive. One day, Tom decided to run a test using his own biosignal. He stood near the orb and placed his hand on the sensor pad. The orb reacted instantly. It flared up, shot a beam of blue light through the chamber wall, and then everything stopped. The power grid went out for 20 seconds. When it came back on, Tom stood there, untouched. But something inside him had changed. He could feel the air, not like before. He could sense the motion of every atom. He waved his hand, and the lights flickered again, not from damage, but from him. The team didn't know what to say. They ran test after test. The energy had bonded to Tom's cells. He could move objects with thought, create a small shield around his body, heal small wounds in seconds. It was as if the laws of physics now listened to him. The scientists were scared, but also curious. A message was sent to Earth's leaders that then the Galactic Union found out. Small scout ship from the Thalon species arrived within 2 days. The captain, a sharp-looking alien named Droth, demanded access to the lab. Earth refused. So the Thalons came anyway. Their ship hovered above the moon station. Droth sent a warning. Stand down and surrender the energy source. Tom stood on the landing pad as the ship opened. Soldiers in armored suits marched out, weapons raised. They didn't speak. Tom raised his hand. A pulse of blue light rippled from his palm. The soldiers froze mid-step. Their armor cracked. Their weapons melted. None of them moved. He didn't hurt them. He only stopped them. Droth ran back to his ship. It lifted off in panic. Across the galaxy. The message spread like wildfire. The humans have touched something forbidden. Some called it luck. Others called it danger. A few called it evolution. But the old ones, the truly ancient races who had watched the galaxy for millions of years, felt something deeper. They had seen this before, long ago, and it had ended in fire. Now, Earth was at the center of it. The spark had lit. The question was, what would burn? Asterisk. The Council's alarm. The Galactic Union's High Council met in emergency session. 12 alien species sat in a great hall built from crystal and light. The room floated above a gas giant, far from any sun. It was a place for calm discussion, not panic. But today, panic filled the air. Droth, the Thalon captain, stood in front of them with the broken weapon in hand. It was melted and twisted from the encounter with the human. He dropped it on the floor. This was our best tech, he growled. It didn't stand a chance. The room went silent. The representative from the Nolari, a species with glowing skin and minds that linked together, spoke slowly. Are you saying this human did it with thought? Alone? Droth nodded. No ship, no shield, no army. Just light. The oldest among them, a being called Vale from the Shari Empire, whispered, phase light. That word made some of the members shift uncomfortably. The records of phase light were ancient, forbidden, locked behind layers of old warnings and sealed archives. It wasn't supposed to exist anymore. It wasn't supposed to be reachable by younger species, and yet a human had it. How? Asked the green-scaled voice of the Krental ambassador. They are barely out of their gravity well. We let them join too soon, one hissed. No, Vale corrected. They were chosen by the phase light. That means something far worse. What does it mean? The Nolari asked. It means, Vale replied. The cycle has started again. Gasps. Spread around the table dot and hidden corners of the galaxy, stories were told of civilizations that once held power far beyond what machines could make. Powers of the mind, powers of matter. But they had all vanished, burned away by their own strength. Now, the humans had taken the first step down that path. We must act, said a cold voice. It belonged to Trelk, a race known for cold logic. Destroy the lab, destroy the human, before more awaken. But others hesitated. Attacking Earth directly may unite them, said another. They have already shown they adapt fast. What if the energy spreads? Vale closed her eyes. It will. And with that, fear spread even faster than war plans. Back on Earth, Tom sat in a secure room deep underground. He didn't eat. He didn't sleep. He didn't need to. Something inside him kept changing. He could hear voices now from miles away. He could feel the thoughts of animals. He could sense gravity's pull and push it away like water dot other humans were being tested too. A few showed signs of early reaction. Not all were stable. One collapsed. Another levitated by accident. It was like the power was reaching out, choosing on its own. The president of Earth stood before Tom with a hard look. Is this something we can control? He asked. Tom didn't answer right away. He looked up at the metal ceiling. I don't think it wants to be controlled. Then what does it want? The president asked. Tom turned his head, slowly, calmly. It wants us to grow. That answer scared the president more than any alien threat. The Galactic Union had feared power. Earth had feared invasion. But now, the real storm was inside the minds of their own people, and it was only just beginning. Asterisk. The first to awaken far from the moon station in a quiet coastal town, a boy named Leo stared at the sky. He had always been different. Quiet. Always feeling things no one else could. The wind spoke to him. The tides moved with his thoughts. He never told anyone, but after Tom's awakening on the moon, something changed. Leo began hearing a pulse in his head like a heartbeat that wasn't his. One night, during a heavy storm, lightning struck the old tree in his backyard. But the bolt froze mid-air, suspended in glowing blue light. Leo stood under it, unharmed. The next morning, the tree was untouched, and his clothes were dry. His parents were terrified. Government agents arrived 3 days later. Quiet men in gray suits took Leo away, gently but firmly. They weren't cruel. Just afraid Leo didn't fight. He understood. He wasn't normal anymore. In the mountains of South Africa, a girl named Mira stopped a rock slide with a scream. In a shipyard near Japan, an old engineer lifted a 20-ton engine with one hand. In the deserts of Australia, a group of hikers saw a woman float upward, leaving no footprints in the sand. It was spreading. Some called it evolution. Others called it a virus of the mind, but everywhere. The result was the same humans were changing. Back at the underground facility, Tom was no longer alone. He had been joined by 10 others. Leo sat beside him now, calm and quiet, yet glowing with the same soft blue aura. None of them needed food anymore. None of them tired. They spoke little. But when they did, their words carried weight felt in. But chest like thunder. One of the doctors asked Tom, "Is it choosing who gets power?" Tom nodded. Not all will awaken. Only those who listen. What happens when more wake up? Tom looked toward the ceiling again. We stop being human. We become something else. In space, the Galactic Union prepared for war. Hundreds of ships gathered at the edge of Sol System. The plan was clear. A quick strike. Destroy the lab. Destroy Earth's communication. Remove the source before it could grow. But they didn't. No, Earth had already changed. The awakened humans weren't building weapons. They were the weapons. A young man in New York stopped a satellite with thought alone. A woman in Brazil walked into a fire and didn't burn. In orbit, a pilot about to be struck by a plasma missile raised her hand, and the weapon unraveled. Into light before hitting her ship, the Union ships started picking up strange energy signals. Earth's surface was glowing in places. Blue light, pulsing like a heartbeat, rising from cities, forests, even oceans. What is that? A Krental commander asked. The reply came from his science officer. We we don't know. It's not any known radiation. But Tom knew. He could feel the Union ships approaching. The others felt it too. He stood up and looked at Leo and the rest. They're coming. Leo blinked. What do we do? Tom's eyes glowed bright blue. We welcome them? They came with fire. The Galactic Union fleet entered Earth's orbit in full formation. There were over 300 warships. Massive carriers, sleek destroyers, stealth vessels hidden in distortion fields. Every class of ship ever built to fight the worst threats. The galaxy had known, but none of them had ever faced something like this. From the flagship, Shining Edge. Supreme Commander Veln gave the order. Disable all communications. Fire on the human research facility. No warning. No mercy. Dozens of cannons charged. Bright beams of ion energy fired across space. But before they reached Earth's upper atmosphere, they vanished. Just gone. No impact. No explosion. No trace. Confused. Veln ordered another volley. Same result. Then a voice echoed inside every crew member's mind. You do not understand what you are striking. It wasn't a message through radio. It wasn't intercepted. It was heard. Veln grabbed the arms of his chair. What is that? How did they breach our systems? It's not systems, sir. The comm officer whispered, shaking. It's in us? Back on Earth, Tom stood in the center of the awakening facility. Around him, the others, Leo, Myra, the engineer, and the rest formed a circle. Their eyes glowed. Their bodies hovered just slightly above the floor. Each of them had connected not just to each other, but to something deeper. The energy wasn't a tool. It was a force alive within nature. Waiting for someone to understand it, the Union had brought war. But the humans didn't send war back. They sent silence. Across the fleet, lights dimmed, power failed, weapons froze mid-fire. Engines locked, and then came stillness. Every ship in orbit now floated dead. Not destroyed, just stopped. From space, the entire Earth shimmered with blue light. It looked like a living pulse wrapped around the planet. Veln stood, eyes wide. They've cut us off from the stars. Back on the moon, a human technician turned to a general. Sir, they've disabled the entire fleet without firing a shot. The general whispered, they are the weapon. The council, watching remotely, couldn't believe what they saw. One of the oldest members, Vale, simply said, it has begun. In secret, other species started pulling back from their borders. Some locked down their homeworlds. Others erased human-related research from their databases, but some were curious. On the dark side of a planet far from Earth, a child of a different species watched footage of Tom. She reached out to touch the screen. It glowed faintly under her hand, and somewhere, deep within the stars, the ancient energy stirred again. Back in the facility, Tom looked up into the sky. He could see the fleet frozen above. He smiled, not with pride, but peace. This is not conquest, he said aloud. This is balance. Leo stood beside him. Will they come again? Tom nodded. They will, but they won't come the same way. Then he looked to the others, and we won't be the same either. Because something even greater was waiting beyond the stars, and humanity had just opened the door. Asterisk. The choice before the galaxy, the frozen fleet above Earth drifted helplessly in orbit. Systems offline. Crews afraid to move. Inside each ship, the same strange message echoed in their minds. Again and again, this is not your war. This is your warning. Commander Velm stood silent in the darkened bridge of the Shining Edge, unable to give orders. The silence crushed him more than any weapon could. On Earth, the pulse of energy had stabilized. The blue glow dimmed across the planet, but only in the sky. On the ground, it grew stronger. People in cities and towns began to feel it. Some described it as warmth. Others said it was like a voice calling gently from deep within. Not everyone could hear it, but those who could changed. Some gained speed. Others sight beyond sight. Some could touch a plant and feel its entire life. A woman in France walked through fire to save children and emerged without a single burn. A boy in India calmed a raging beast just by looking into its eyes. And yet, not all awakenings were peaceful. In a small base near the Andes, a man lost control. His power exploded outward in a wave that shattered mountains. He couldn't stop it. The facility vanished. So did he? Tom watched the report in silence. We're not all ready, he said. Leo asked softly. Can we teach them? Tom looked toward the stars. We'll have to. Back in the Galactic Council's hall, debate raged. They're not just dangerous, snapped the Krental leader. They've already taken over a fleet. Without permission, without discussion. They didn't destroy it, replied the Nolari. That means they showed mercy. Can we say we would have done the same? Vale raised her hand. The room fell quiet. You all speak of fear, she said. But this is not the first time. The chamber hushed further. She continued. Long ago, when the Shari were young, there was another species that reached this point. They touched. The phase light, we watched, we feared, we struck first. What happened? Someone asked. We erased them. And something inside the galaxy died with them, Vale said. It took millions of years before another spark appeared. And now it's Earth, the Nolari whispered. Vale nodded. Yes, this time, we must not strike. We must ask. In the following days, something no one expected happened. Tom sent a message not to Earth, but to the entire galaxy. It wasn't words. It was a shared vision. Every species received it. They saw Earth, glowing softly. They saw Tom, Leo, Mira, and the others. They saw humans not fighting, but reaching out, and they heard the offer. We will not rule. We will not conquer, but we will teach. If you choose peace, we welcome you. If you choose fear, we will not stop you. But we will not be broken. The council was shaken. For the first time, a younger race hadn't asked for a seat. They had offered. Something greater. From the edge of the galaxy. A small species no one paid attention to sent a reply. Teach us. Then another. And another. The flood began. The galaxy didn't know if this was the start of salvation, or something more terrifying. But one thing was certain. The balance of power had shifted. Rise of the awakened within weeks. The galaxy changed in ways no one had imagined. From distant moons to forgotten colonies. Species began sending messages to Earth, not with threats, but with questions. How does the power choose? Can it be shared? Will it destroy us or make us more? Earth's leaders created a new department, not of defense, not of awakening. It wasn't just about humans anymore. Something older than humanity had returned, and it was spreading across the stars. Tom, Leo, and Mira traveled to the new training sanctuary on Luna's surface, where hundreds of people, women, children, came to understand their new powers. The blue energy pulsed through them like a second heartbeat. It wasn't always easy. Some cried when they heard thoughts, not their own. Some collapsed under the weight of feeling too much. Others laughed for the first time in years, realizing they were never truly alone. But not all who came were ready. Man named Brant, angry, bitter, filled with hate, used his awakening to control minds. He twisted weaker students into doing what he wanted. He wasn't interested in growth. He wanted power. Tom faced him alone. The air around them pulsed with raw energy. You're wasting it, Tom said calmly. This gift isn't for domination. Brant sneered. Then what's it for? Sitting in circles and meditating like monks? Tom didn't answer. He simply raised a hand. A wave of silence wrapped around Brant. His powers blinked out. His body stiffened. I won't destroy you, Tom. Sad. But the energy listens to balance. And right now, you're not balanced? Brant collapsed. After that, strict rules were created. Awakening wasn't a weapon. It was a responsibility. Students weren't just taught how to use power. They were taught when not to. Meanwhile, in space, the Galactic Union's frozen fleet finally restarted. Carefully, slowly, ship by ship returned to operation. But they did not fire again. Instead, They turned and left Earth's orbit escorted not by warships, but by 5 awakened humans glowing like stars. This time the message was simple. You are free to return, but not as masters. The council, still cautious, sent an envoy. To Earth, an elder named Nalro. His skin shimmered like glass. His voice echoed without sound. He met Tom in the sanctuary garden. You are changing the galaxy. Nalro said, We're just opening a door, Tom replied. Do you know where it leads? Tom looked at Leo, Mira, and the others in the distance, teaching a group of alien children how to quiet their minds and feel the energy. No, he said softly. But maybe it's not a door we need to fear. Nalro looked up at the stars. The galaxy has always moved by fear. Power leads to control. Control leads to war. Maybe, Tom replied. But what if power could lead to trust? That question lingered as Nalro returned to the council with his report. New worlds opened up to the possibility of peace. Not peace by treaties or weapons, but peace through shared evolution. On one edge of the galaxy, an insect-like race began, sensing changes in their young. On another planet, a blind monk saw light for the first time and wept with joy. The phase light wasn't just bound to Earth anymore. The galaxy itself was responding. And yet, deep in the void beyond known stars, something stirred. Something old. Something forgotten. And it had noticed the light. Asterisk, the shadow beyond the stars, far beyond known space. In a region no maps dared mark, something ancient stirred. It had no name. It was older than memory. Long ago, it had seen the phase light burn across galaxies and had snuffed it out each time, not from hate, but from fear, for it knew what came next. Now, that same light pulsed again from Earth. The awakening had begun. Back at the sanctuary. On Luna, Tom stood in silent meditation. The garden around him had changed, now filled with students from 6 alien species. Some floated gently. Others bent gravity like clay. One child could talk to birds and make them sing songs that didn't exist in nature. But Tom felt it, a cold breath, a whisper beyond the stars. He opened his eyes. It's coming, he said. Mira looked up. The Union? Tom shook his head. Worse, something that remembers this energy, and hates it. The warning signs arrived quickly. A research vessel vanished in deep space. Moon colony reported time slowing, then disappearing altogether. And in the skies above a frontier world, a rip in space formed. Not a portal. Not a wormhole, a wound. That wound, darkness poured, not darkness like night, but silence. A silence that erased light, sound, thought. One of Earth's early awakened. An older woman named Alia stepped forward. She tried to connect with it. The moment she did, she screamed. The energy inside her unraveled. Her body shimmered and vanished like smoke. She wasn't killed. She was erased. The Galactic Council held its last emergency session. We must destroy Earth, Trelk snapped. This is their fault. This is the end. No, Naro replied. Rising from his seat, this is not a weapon. This is a test. Not of them, of us. Vale, the oldest, nodded slowly. We faced this before, and we failed. We tried to destroy what we didn't understand, and in doing so, we fed the shadow. Naro continued. There's only one chance. Let the awakened lead. Earth's answer was not ships. Not missiles. It was a circle. Tom, Myra, Leo, and over. 100 awakened stood in space above the blue world, surrounded by alien allies. Their bodies shimmered with light, not as warriors, but as signal towers. Together, they focused, not on hate, not on fear, on memory. They remembered the first spark. They remembered Alia's laugh. They remembered every smile. Every lesson, every hand reached out to help Dot, and the energy responded. The phase light burned bright across systems, across species. The silence screamed and tried to push back. It reached to erase again, but this time it couldn't, because the awakened weren't just humans anymore. They were the galaxy, And they stood together, dot the wound sealed, dot the silence, retreated, dot, and for the first time in recorded history. Peace didn't come from surrender, dot, it came from understanding, dot. Tom stood, surrounded by glowing figures. All kinds, humans, aliens, young and old. The danger is not power, he said, his voice echoing softly across minds. The danger is when power is kept in fear. Shared, it becomes light. He looked at the stars. Let there be light. And the galaxy shined brighter than ever before, because humanity had unlocked to power. And this time, the galaxy had no defense. Because it didn't need one anymore. Asterisk.